There was a shocking video that's been making the rounds lately, showing a number of severely injured fish struggling to survive in the overheated waters of the Pacific Northwest. This region suffered a long and brutal heat wave in the summer that shattered temperature records across the seaboard. The danger to humans was made clear on the news, but less was spoken about the creatures that we share this planet with. All of the wildlife out there, all of the flora and fauna, all of that got hit by this heat wave too. And in some places, it was catastrophic. A while back, I covered a news story about the heat wave killing hundreds of thousands of mussels along the coast, as well as sea cucumbers, starfish, crabs, and more. I also mentioned that experts were worried about fish, like salmon, because if the heat wave warmed their lakes and rivers too much, they would all be in mortal danger. In that previous news segment, I mentioned that salmon larvae can't survive in warmer water. There's less dissolved oxygen available, and the temperature stress deforms their fragile development and can kill them. It's easy to see how this could ravage or outright destroy entire salmon populations that return to an affected lake or section of river to reproduce. All of those experts who made predictions about the future damage this might cause to the salmon and to other fish populations, they were right. In this latest video, recorded on July 16th, so I'm a bit late in the year, we see a group of sockeye salmon as they swim upstream, seemingly with great effort and exhaustion, in the Little White Salmon River, which is a tributary that branches off of the Columbia River. The water was measured throughout the day, and it peaked at 21 degrees Celsius, or 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is more than high enough to kill these salmon if they can't get to cooler water in time. Many of the salmon also appear to have burn marks, or bright pink lesions where it appears that the scales have fallen off, and the underlying tissue is falling apart. In some of these lesions, there appear to be opportunistic white fungal infections, creating puffy patches of mycelia, which appear fluffy due to the huge number of tiny reproductive stalks growing out of the fruiting body. Apparently, this white fungal infection can emerge when the water temperature is warmer, and it's obviously opportunistically infecting the lesions where the skin is disrupted and the body can be easily infected. So this is really just insult added to injury. The heat wave itself is going to kill pretty much all of the salmon that we see in this video, and thousands more are expected to die as well. It's a hideous repeat of the 2015 heat wave that killed an estimated 250,000 salmon in these same river systems. Brett Vanden Heuvel is the executive director of Columbia Riverkeeper, an environmental organization that focuses on the Columbia River. When interviewed about the salmon, he had some things to say that were hard to hear. He described the salmon entering the Little White Salmon River tributary as an attempt to, quote, escape a burning building, unquote, and said that an analogous situation for a human would be trying to run a marathon in 38 degrees Celsius or 100 degree Fahrenheit weather, or even hotter. That sounds miserable, and more seriously, it's deadly. Vanden Heuvel also said that part of the problem is the numerous dams along the river that hold warm water, and the shallow, quick-to-warm waters of the fish ladders built around them. All of this facilitates the warmer river temperatures. He says that this heat wave simply exacerbated an already existing problem and turned it into an imminent catastrophe. Vanden Heuvel said, quote, it's heartbreaking to watch animals dying unnaturally, and worse, thinking about the cause of it. This is a human-caused problem, and it really makes me think about the future, unquote. If heat waves like this only become more common and more intense, then I don't see a viable future for these salmon. And when we look past these particular heat waves and we look at the greater marine ecology, what's going to happen to everything else when these salmon are finally killed off? Their waste fertilizes the rivers they swim in, and after they mate, their rotting corpses provide the nutrients for their offspring, not to mention all kinds of grazing birds and reptiles and amphibians and insects and everything else in the ecosystem. At every stage of their life, from egg to larva to juvenile to adult, they serve as a fatty, nutritious food source for a wide variety of predatory animals, with effects that radiate across the food web. Many bears, for example, rely heavily on salmon for food during the late summer and fall months as they prepare for hibernation. The oils and proteins in the salmon are really good for this, for the bears, but if the salmon start to die out and there's not nearly enough to feed the bears during this critical period where they fatten up for winter, it may lead to widespread bear starvation and death during the winter. This is just one theoretical example of the possible consequences of this kind of stuff, and I'm really afraid that it's only going to get worse as time goes on. Van den Heuvel said, quote, "I see this as a deeply sad vision for our future, but I also see it as a call to action. There's mitigation measures we can take to save the salmon, to cool our rivers, and if this video doesn't inspire some serious reflection, then I don't know what will." Unquote.